These projects get going. If you start with one thing and you start going, oh, I could do this and I could do that, and I might as well do all these things at one time. So here's the I want to move this fender up because I'm getting new tires. The tires are coming tomorrow. And so since I'm pulling the front fender off, the front wheel off, I thought this brake line, I should do that brake line. So I just ordered that. That'll be here tomorrow. And then I want to replace the fork oil. So I'm going to take the forks off and replace the fork oil. And then I'm thinking, since I've got the forks off, I've got the tire off, I've got the fender off, I've got all that off, I actually was going to paint the outside of these wheels. So I'm going to be taking the tires off, so the time to get these wheels done is now. With the bigger tires and then the black outer rim look like a big fat tire bike, but the 3-piece wheels are super cool, so check that out. So this is the inner piece. Basically unbolt that, unbolt the wheel, and the tire comes right off all as one piece. Of course, make sure you let the air out first. And I didn't know that, but hey, that's makes it super easy. All of a sudden I looked at it, I'm like, yeah, that's gonna make it easy. And the fork tubes are done. I think those look really good. They came out fantastic. So that's done, and I know you can't see back in here, but the shielding's all done as well. Those all came out great. It'll be a lot tougher paint than the other, so be able to hit them on things and won't scratch. Guys, we got the tire off. It's sitting on the bench. Now, what do you want to do to take this tire off the wheel? Well, you don't need to try and spoon it off. Basically, what we're going to do here is you want to take the air out of the tube, so there's no pressure in here. And the first thing you should do, depending on how much pressure you're running, you're going to want to remove this valve stem in here. So you take the valve cover off and you get a valve core remover. But the first thing you want to do is let some air out. And the reason you'll let some air out first instead of just taking that out is because if you've got about 30 psi in here, you might send that little valve core off into the moon somewhere. So you can either put your hand over it and do it with full pressure, or just let a little bit of air out first, then take that off, and we'll get to the next part right after we get the air out. Okay, next part, you've got the valve stem out. You set that aside, set it next to your valve core remover. You're going to put that back in a moment. But now you want to take that center piece of the wheel out, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts holding that in, and I'm going to use my impact to do that. Let's see, we get that on reverse, and take each one of those out. And we're going to take that right on out of there. All right, we've got the centerpiece of the wheel out, and we've got 4 more bolts. That's holding the 2 pieces together. Now, what you want to be able to do here is you're going to take all these 4 bolts out, and it's not just going to come off the tire, but what you want to do is get some lubricant down in the side of the between the rim and the tire, and you can just use Windex, and we'll get to that really quick so you can see how that works. It is worth mentioning one thing here, and you see me using that impact on the bolts that hold the rim together. Be a little careful with those. You can strip those pretty easily. I actually did one of those, so other than that, went together pretty easy. Alright guys, we've got the tire, all the bolts out, and what I found the easiest way to do this is that you can sit there and push on it, push on it, push on it on the counter, but I've got a little bike stand here, and if I set the whole tire and rim assembly on the bike stand and then just push on the corners, the rims come right out. Okay, so I've done got both wheels sitting down here. I need to clean these up a little bit. I'm going to clean them up with a little soap and water first. Soap and water. I can use Windex, whatever you got around, just to clean them up a little bit. Then we're going to sand them down just to get a rough surface, because this paint that I'm using, which is this truck bed liner, Rust-Oleum, is pretty tough stuff. It actually works really well. I've used it. This little trick came from when I used to race enduros, and that grippy tape you put down on the frame so that your boots don't slide. That grippy tape always came off, so I ended up using this stuff, which is a little tougher, and I can make the same shape. It lasts longer, and I can touch it up real easy. You'll never know I did it. So, all right, I did mention cleaning up these rings, and I said use some soapy water and maybe like Windex. And once you're done cleaning them, what I forgot to mention, I'll mention now, is that you need to use some kind of solvent or a denatured alcohol. Just use a rubbing alcohol, something like that, to clean all the grease that you might have on your hands. Keep washing your hands, keep your hands clean, because as soon as you touch those, anywhere you touch it, you start painting on it, it's not going to stick where you've touched it. So, all right, guys, that's what the rim is done. I've sanded it down. I've rubbed it down with the alcohol once, and for the final one, I've got a new cloth. I'm going through and wiping the entire wheel down. And after wiping it down, I'm going to keep this cloth with me and hold on to it with the cloth so I don't put any fingerprints on it. And I'm going to go set it down on my box to be painted. And there we go. That's all I need to do. Got both of them ready to go. And let's paint them. Alright guys, coat number 1 is pretty thin, so you want to make a nice thin coat so you still see through to the rim there, kind of getting all around, but you want to make it pretty thin, get a sticky surface for the next coat. Okay, we finished up the painting. We got 5 coats of paint. This is the last coat of paint. It looks shiny right now, but once it dries, it takes on, it kind of brings on that texture. And let's take a look at what one looks like dried. There's a good view of what that looks like completely dry. All right guys, behind me we got a lot of work left to do here. We've got to finish up the rims and put the tires on. We've got to do the brake lines, and there's a bunch more. So let me kind of show you what we're working on. Here's the tires. I really hope those are gonna fit there. Way bigger. Anyways, these are 130 90 10s from the 350 10s. I'm not sure what the, anyways, a lot bigger. Let's go over here. So we got the shocks already on it. The forks are already on it. That's great. So we've got a good start there. We've got new tubes. We've got a new chain going on. We got to put the rims together. We got a brake line to go on. And oh yeah, sprockets. So we've got 2 different size sprockets. I bought a 16 and a 17. So I've got extra sprockets. It's got a 14 on it. Big upgrades. All right, so first let's get that tube in the tire, and we want to inflate it a little bit so that at least it's round inside there and it won't stick out the side. All right guys, so the tubes need to go in the tire. Unfortunately, I totally bought the wrong size tubes. These things are tiny. So we're gonna end up doing this with the old tubes, which are pretty thin, but they're still gonna work. They're just gonna, I need to buy bigger tubes, so I'll have to redo this, but that's right. Got the tubes inside the tire. They're partially inflated, so they're round, and that's all we want inside, so they're not gonna get crimped inside the wheel or get pinched, and that's about it. All right, step 1, tire lube, and put it inside in the tire here. And we just need to run some of this inside the tire here on the inside lip. We're gonna run it on the outside here as well. That way it'll help seat it. Same with the other side really quick. This side, it'll make it a lot easier to seat the wheel on the
This is a pretty simple process. Once
okay,
you've
and
got
on the
that
inside
lube on
here
that
keeps
tire
the
and,
tube
and on that,
from getting
tube,
pinched.
It really kind of goes to
That's
get
about it.
super simple.
My
you can basically just push
little
that lead
my
right
trusty
on there.
motorcycle
Line up
stand.
those bolts,
Put
make
one
sure that
rim
your,
on there. I'm gonna put the
inner
tire on
tube
top
is
of that, this on
straight
top of the other.
and
Press
that
the 2
you've got
together
all the bolts lined
and
up
start bolting them.
properly. And I would mention about that valve stem needs to be on the correct size, but I'll correct side, but I'll touch on that here in just a second.
Alright guys, pretty simple process. Just put air in it. It seated the tire perfectly. No issues there at all. And that is done. Alright, let's go on to number 2. Get this one on the... That's a big tire. It fits. Hey, look at this. It is really close to not fitting, but I think I think we have it fitting here. So everything looks like there's no touching anywhere. It is what you call quite close, but I still have about a 1/4 inch all the way around, and I can move the tire back, which will kind of come back just a tiny bit. But yeah, take a look at that. There we go. There's a 130/90/10 on a CT70. Boom. Front wheel assembled, and I thought it'd be worth mentioning the fact that I use the Mobil 1 red grease on lots of parts to keep them from, one, rusting, to lubricant forbearance and things. So back in here, you'll see behind this bush, behind this seal, there's a gap, and you want to fill that with grease. And let's see what we got on the other side. On the other side, we can just put a little grease down inside there, and then what we're gonna do is grease up the axle so that it has a coating of grease on it. It won't rust, and it'll keep it lubricated. Take 2 on the front wheel, because if you take a look down here, and you got the valve stem right here, and it sticks out pretty far. If you have that valve stem on this side, it's going to hit the brake caliper. So I put it on the wrong side, so I kept hearing this click, 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 and I thought, what the heck? I got like not one house down from my house. I thought, that's not right. Came back, sure enough. I swapped that around, and funny enough, I actually had to pull the whole tire off because these are directional tires, so I had to swap it completely around. But still, that took 10 minutes max. That's a pretty quick job. And I'll go out and take it for another ride again. I would say that with this size tire, this is the 130/90/10. It's as far as you're going to go on this bike. It is, all the gaps are just within like a 1/4 of an inch, if maybe an 1/8 of an inch of that front wheel. So there could be some rubbing, and just really close to that chain, and close to the swing arm. I probably could have ran the chain back one more link, had one more link on it. I still haven't checked out the gearing to see if the gearing's too tall, but we will check that out next.
Brake lines for that bike.